Gemini, Sun, Moon and Rising. This is your message from the tarot for the week ahead. Bit of a mixed bag, not necessarily a bad thing by any means. There's a big theme here around a change of perspective. I say that because you have the Hanged Man right at the beginning of the spread, and we also have that in conjunction with the King of Swords. So a lot here about the mind, about how we perceive things, how we see things. You may find this week that there's a bit of a transformation in terms of how you see a particular subject, a particular person, a scenario. You may kind of think about it one way at the beginning of the week and then think of it entirely different by the end of the week. And because of that, there's a couple of kind of messages or bits of guidance around that is don't make assumptions. Be open to go, okay, maybe this is going to turn out differently to how I presume. It's not, there's this big thing about don't make assumptions, even in the seemingly kind of setbacks or frustrations or disappointments, whatever it might be. Don't necessarily assume that you know where it's going this week. Be open, be receptive, keep checking in with yourself. There's that big thing, isn't there? I may have mentioned this last week, so you'll have to check the video from last week. But there's the 5 principles by Don Miguel Ruiz, and number 5 is be skeptical but willing to learn. And I think that's a really good thing to... Even my dog Fairfax agrees with me on that. He's panting in the background. It's cultivating that sense of, do you know what? I'm not going to make assumptions around this. Be very open-hearted, very open-minded, particularly. Don't jump to conclusions, because there's a real sense of, if you do, then later on, it's not necessarily that you'd get egg on your face, but it would be a sense of, oh, actually, yes, I'm not embarrassed. It's not, you'll be glad to know there's no public humiliation going on. But it's more of a slice of humble pie, shall we say. And if we started off with a kind of, okay, maybe attitude is going to hold you in good stead. There is also something here about you very much leaning into your individuality. So perhaps there are themes where you're going against the crowd or going against the grain of public opinion. I say that in part because the King of Swords is 1 part Capricorn and 2 parts Aquarius. And we also have the Hanged Man, which is ruled by Neptune. Neptune obviously being the planet around spiritual transformation, spiritual growth, intuition, all of those themes. And then Aquarius of the King of Swords being very much about the individual. So these two things in tandem is about, well, how does my individuality actually, what are the benefits of that? What are some of the boons of being an individual as opposed to being part of the collective? It's not about, oh, I'm special. It's much more about, actually, I have the skill set, I have this way of seeing things, I have this way of understanding things that makes me different, and therefore I have something to offer and something to... something to give that other people's can't. You know, one of everybody's superpower is that you are you, and no one else is like you. So it's about really embodying that sense this week as well. It's not necessarily about being a maverick. It's not about, I see it like this, so to hell with everybody else. It's not an obstinance that's coming through. It's more of, okay, this is a skill set that I have. This is something I'm really good at. This is a passion of mine. This is something that I'm excited by. How can I share that? How can I bring more of that into the world? Because as we know, if we're really able to find what makes us unique, and what we do best, and if the more we lean into that, the better things run, the better things go. It's when we try and be like other people. It's very important to be inspired by others and kind of have an ideal. All of that is wonderful and great. But ultimately, it is about you, being unashamedly you. And there's a real sense of leaning into that. It's interesting because the Page of Wands has appeared in all of the, well, this is the third house, but it's appeared in Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. So it's a big energy this week that wants to be shared. And the Page of Wands to me is always about enthusiasm, excitement, playfulness. It's about looking at things and really appreciating them and getting a momentum and the fire that kind of burns in our belly and that spring in our step and the reason to kind of bounce out of bed in the morning. So if that's not going on, why? What is it that would bring that sense of excitement for you? What is it that would put that fire back in your belly? And again, the answer for that for you, Gemini, is around, well, what makes me an individual? What am I best at that nobody else is? What do I do the best with the least amount of effort? Because you've got, which is so nice to see, the Ten of Cups, the Lord of perfected success. It's the card that comes before it is the Nine of Wands, and the Nine of Wands is the Lord of great strength. It's interesting because it often talks about barriers and the things that we have to overcome, hence why the strength is coming through. So there may be a call here to make some of the slightly more difficult decisions, but that's not in the sense of, oh, that difficult decision is because I'm having to let somebody down or a kind of breakup or it's not difficult in that way. It's difficult in the way of needing to stay true to you and yourself and honoring yourself and going, no, this is what's best for me. This is what I feel is most right for me. Rather than trying to please others or do things because that's how other people do it. This is a really, really key point of actually, I am slightly going to buck the trend. I am going to stand out a little bit for being an individual within this situation or circumstance, but that's okay. And that might be a little bit challenging in the initial part, but that leading to a great sense of accomplishment and a great sense of achievement too. So any of those, there's a real sense of not shying away perhaps from slightly speaking your truth or standing your ground a little bit. Again, that needs to be balanced and understood with this concept of being open and receptive and not making assumptions or judgments. But at the same time, figuring out, actually, am I just doing that because that's what's expected of me? So that for me is where some of these challenges arises, because it's like it's slightly having to put your head above the parapet and kind of feeling, I suppose, vulnerable in a certain way, but out of that vulnerability comes this Lord of perfected success. So are there things that you've been just going on with for a while because you think it's easier? Have you been a bit more conflict averse? Have you just been going with the flow because you don't want to rock the boat? Well, this is the week where actually maybe it's the time to start reclaiming some of that power, or actually saying, I'm really sorry, but that's not how I see this, or it's not actually, I've kind of been going on along with it up until this point because that's been an easier option, but unfortunately now is the time to kind of slightly change that and break that apart. But as I said right at the beginning, there's likely to be lots of changes of perspective, new understandings of things, new awareness of things. There's a real sense of this starting to broaden, new concepts and new insights of, okay, that's it. In quite a profound level, in quite a deep resonant level. This isn't just, oh, I always thought that actor's name was this, but I discovered it was this. Or I always thought that was the best thing on the menu, but really it's this. It's not those kind of, these are deep, profound insights, and out of those insights, a change of perspective on how you've been seeing things up until now, but in a really good way, in a really positive way, which will make you realize more of who you are, where you stand, what's your moral code, what's your ethics, and how you interact with the world. So it feels great. It feels great. And I suppose initially that might be a little bit, because if we're not able to express that externally, then it's not fully embodied. So there may be just those times throughout the week where you slightly have to push back a little bit, or stand your ground, or, as I say, stay true to how you see things. But yeah, if played correctly, it can lead to really, really great things too. So just embrace your individuality, I suppose, is part of the theme. The big question to be asking yourself is, what makes me me? Okay, hope that helps. Bye for now.